There we go. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm good, and you?
Good. You drinking a gallon of milk at a time there?
Yeah. It's Crystal Light.
What organization do you lift in?
RPS,
RPS?
Revolution Powerlifting Syndicate. Yeah.
What state?
I've done meets in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont.
Yeah, RPS is around that area.
Yeah.
I'm in New York. I
Nice.
see a lot of Jersey meets.
Mm-hmm.
So I see your totals are kind of baffling. But you're lifting raw in RPS?
Yep, raw with wraps.
Yeah, basically raw. And you squats 1,005.
Yep.
What's your body weight?
Last meet I was 368, or I think they measured me at 367.8, something like that. So super heavyweight.
It doesn't even make sense. So how many people are raw over 1,000 pounds? It can't be that many.
Last I saw in open powerlifting, I was number 14. I know there's a couple of people who've done 1,000 flat and 1,003. So I think it's less than 25, around 20.
That's crazy. And hey, listen, I got a question for you. You deadlift, right? Why do you think it is that people that squat so much, right? Like they're squatting like over 700 pounds, 800 pounds, deadlift less than their squat. And guys that are squatting less are deadlifting more than their squat.
I think it comes down to leverages. You'll see a lot of the people who are deadlifting more than they squat around the 220, 242 class. And then once you kind of build up the power belly and get less Greek god physique kind of looking more like a bear than a human, your leverages change. It gets harder to get down to the bar, and the deadlift kind of drops off, but it allows you to kind of bounce off of your belly a little bit on the squats. You get that almost like how Bill Kazmaier used to say that he would build up his biceps to kind of give himself something to push off of for bench. It's kind of like the power belly for squats.
Yeah, I heard Ed Cohn talking about that.
Yeah.
Off his belly. Or maybe it was him or Mark Bell. One of them. They were like hanging out together and talking about squatting and talking about their stomach against their thighs. And I was like, I really don't have that big of a stomach. I don't get that effect. But they were talking about it like everyone would have this.
Yeah.
Like, definitely not my wife. She's 103 pounds. She don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. At 103, she's squatting 200.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty good. But when did you start powerlifting?
Well, August 11th, 2014 was the first time that I trained with someone for powerlifting. It was I had been doing like 2-a-days for bodybuilding because I was the chonky kid in school. And I was asking some guy about wrist wraps. And he was like, "Are you a pussy?" I was like, "Well, I don't think so." He's like, "Then come bench with us. It'll be a good time." So I benched. I went home. My family went out to eat. Our house burnt down, and yeah.
You remember the date so well?
Yeah, that's why I remember the date. But my first meet was, I think it was the 2014 Gate City Gauntlet, which was a push pull. I benched 335 and deadlifted 450, I think. So when I was 18 was when I started. My first full power was when I was 19. So 2015, 2016, I think.
Yeah. So, so many of the people that I talked to started around like 2016 to 2018. Because like after like CrossFit became crazy big, and so many of them were CrossFit people. And then eventually they were like, this is stupid. And they started powerlifting or started Olympic lifting or started doing strongman competition. They started, you know what I mean? Like, because right, that first day you were powerlifting, right? The guy said, "What are you, a pussy?"
Yeah.
right? That's the powerlifting attitude, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to recruit people unless they're like a big, like certain people, certain type of personality. It's a little easier to recruit people for CrossFit.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's like, because I'm always like, well, how can we recruit more people like CrossFit? Why is everyone goes there first? Because it's just so much less intimidating.
Yeah, the atmosphere definitely is a different thing. CrossFit's all this like inclusive stuff, group training and whatnot. And then I found that a lot of people get addicted to putting the more weight on the bar, and then they go from doing the workout of the day to what if I max my bench out? And then you can actually start tracking your progress, and every PR is like a massive hit of dopamine, and you're like a whole new person for the next week.
I do it all the time. I misload for my sets, and well, I won't tell you what I squatted today. I don't want to embarrass you, but so I did what I was supposed to do. What I did last week, I loaded for my set. I thought I had on there what I was supposed to do today. I rack it. I'm taking it off the bar, and I'm like, oh my god, this is what I did last week. This wasn't what I was supposed to do today. And I was so pissed. I was like, screw it. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do next week because I'm so pissed off. And like, I barely got like, I do that to myself when I misload. I'm like, I get so angry. Then like, I have to do like they call them like punishment sets. I'm like, I'll do it more.
Yeah. You kind of get the squat brain going on. You're like, this number's in my head. Let me just load it up. At one point I trained in a monolift, and I was squatting, and the monolith arms kept coming slower and slower out. And I was convinced that someone had just completely loosened the screw on the arms. And I mixed up lefty loosey and righty tighty.
Yeah.
This squat brain kills.
Yeah. Plus taking like 3 times the recommended dosage of my pre-workout doesn't help.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? In all fairness, right? Like I always, because my wife's like, you're gonna kill yourself. But I'm like, listen, if you're allowed to take a scoop, I'm like 2.5 times the size of you. Take 2.5 scoops, and you should be able to take like 8.
Allegedly. Yeah, my wife takes she'll get close to that 1 gram threshold with caffeine regularly, and she loves taking the pre-workout, and I'll just walk in with some like iced coffee, and I'm like, I got some sugar, a little bit of caffeine, I'm good. And then,
yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Nah, that's about it.
So, your wife is a powerlifter?
Yeah, she's we actually met at a powerlifting meet. I was judging the New Hampshire, no, not New Hampshire. It was the New England RPS New England Revolution back in 2017, 2018, I think. 2017, she just corrected me. And you always get the biggest guy to back spot, and she claims that I was checking her out when she was setting up for squats, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And later that day, I red lit her on a bench, and I haven't heard the end of that. But yeah, we met at powerlifting meet. She competed at the RPS Women's Worlds back in, I think it was 2018, at 132, I think it was 148 PR total. Then she had some health issues, like some knee fluid that probably something to do with aliens. Doctors can't figure it out, but she's coming back. So yeah.
Yeah. So I met my wife powerlifting also in Brooklyn, St. Francis College. The powerlifting team just started when we got there, and it pretty much dissolved when we left because our coach kind of came and left. He was the strength coach there, and so I try and ask guys who are married to girls who are powerlifting also, right? Like, are you able to take advice from your wife in regards to powerlifting?
that's a tough. That's tough. My wife definitely keeps me centered. Um, I have pretty bad imposter syndrome, so I'll just be sitting around and be like, can I actually do this? Am I actually strong enough to be lifting? She's like, shut up, you squat 1,000. Go eat your steak. But I've always said that the two rules of thumb of coaching is you don't coach yourself, you don't coach your significant other, because you don't want to bring the stresses of the gym home with you. And if you coach yourself, you're gonna not exactly program as hard as that you're gonna favor some things. But yeah, if I squat high, my wife lets me know.
Yeah,
So
it's a funny thing, right? Because like I've been joking, like like a homeless guy could like pass by me squatting and say, "Yo, that was a little high," and I'd be like, "Oh, okay," like I'll go a little deeper. But if my wife is like, "Oh, look, you look a little high," I'm like, I know what depth is. I know where.
yeah.
And I bombed out of a competition once because I trained in my basement. And she was pregnant at the time. She wasn't lifting, and she was like, "Yo, you squatting like just a little above parallel." And I went to that competition, and it's like if you train a certain way, it's amazing. Like I really felt like I was hitting like the floor, and
Yeah.
even it was a lightweight. It was something that I did for 5 before the competition. Like I know the meet director's wife, she was like, she knew me for a while. She was like, "Yo, what is wrong with you?" It's like I've been lifting with them since 2001, and yeah, she wasn't that long ago, and yeah, that was the only meet I ever bombed out of. That's
Yeah.
a cool feeling.
Yeah. I've had one squat called for death back at the Maine State Championships RPS meet. It was outside Old Orchard Beach. It was a pretty cool venue. You never think to bring sunscreen to a powerlifting meet, but I turned purple. But my third squat 965 got called for depth, and my coach Greg Pornor was like, "Don't worry about it. Squat heavier and squat deeper next time." So I threw the air squats back in, and what was it, 960, and at my last meet I took 965 second attempt, and just the muscle memory of just constantly just treating the, like Ed Cohn said, when you start treating the light weights like the heavy weights will feel like the light weights. So doing the air squats made the heavy squats feel lighter and feel more consistent. And I usually like to say that above 95%, you don't want to be relying on any sort of like mental cues or anything. Your body's going to immediately snap back to whatever muscle memory you have. So the air squats, they seem kind of dumb when you're doing them. You're like, are these over yet? It feels like cardio, but honestly, that's probably one of the best things that I've done recently.
That's a good idea. I've never done that. I mean, I do like just the bar.
Yeah. Well, my coach Greg Panora, he had a stroke. I think it was on his way out of Westside. I don't know his exact timetable, but he lost feeling in the right side of his body, and he, like, his physical therapist was like, you can bench fine, but you have trouble picking a towel up, and that all relies on muscle memory. So we kind of took those concepts and worked with Swede Burns to kind of rebuild from this world-class multiply lifter. He had no idea how to lift raw. He just reworked all the basic cues, squatting 100 air squats with a broomstick, and he was able to set, I think it was the 242 world record at that time in sleeves. His first or second meet back from the stroke, and that's part of the reason why I took him up as my coach, was that he knows the mechanics and the things that you need to do to be able to add weight to something that might be kind of stagnant. He basically rebuilt the wheel from a rock, essentially.
How many days a week are you working out?
Normally I do 3 days a week, but since my last meet, well, the past 4 years I've dropped 700-pound deadlifts due to grip issues. So I've added in a fourth, really like 30 to 45-minute grip day.
Yeah.
So 3 to 4 days a week.
Have you ever talked to like professional arm wrestler about like grip strength stuff?
No, not really.
Look on Instagram. That like I've talked to a few on my podcast. Friendly guys. They know how to work grip for arm wrestlers, and it's an interesting thing. A lot of them they do they do grip every day,
Oh
and
wow.
for whatever reason, I don't know. This is what they all say the same thing. The arm wrestler guys, they were like, calves, your core, and your forearms, you can do every day. They're like, you can't overwork them because they're just a body part that's just in constant use. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they say. But these guys, they do forearm every day, and they do all these weird little movements and stuff. Like I would reach out to an arm wrestler.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of powerlifting and strongmen go from the strength sports into arm wrestling, like Larry Wheels and Brandon Allen recently. So that would make sense. Yeah.
They say it's all well, forearm and bicep.
Yeah.
But in RPS, do they have the strict curl? I don't.
No, it's just the big three.
You gotta get it. You guys gotta do it. Well, you know what? Don't do it because 100% raw. A lot of people are coming to 100% raw to do it. So it's a lot of fun. You should come to 100% raw meet and do it. Do you ever try it? Just go about, against the wall.
I haven't done a strict curl. I've done a barbell curl. The last time that I did it was, how old am I? 4 or 5 years ago, and I got 315 on a super cheater barbell curl. But I saw Kirill doing a lot of bicep stuff, so I was like, might as well train like the best to be the best.
Well, there's an actual competition called the power curl.
Yeah.
You're just standing and you can bend back, which is it's basically like a cheating competition. It's weird. But yeah, the guys doing that. Yeah, I don't know. I think there was a competition this summer online. A lot of guys were doing like the high twos and stuff like that. But the strict curl is tough, like because it's basically like the bench. You got to keep your butt and your shoulders on the wall, and you can only your heels could come off the wall like a foot, and you got to keep your knees locked out. You can't bounce with your knees at all. So your legs got to stay locked out, and everyone seems to like it. So it's good. It seems to be growing the organization a lot. There's a lot of people that only strict curl.
Yep.
Which I know them. I'm friends with some of them. They say they're power lifters. I'm like, okay, but yeah, this in 100% raw. Also, I know in Canada there's a couple meet directors doing an overhead press. That's interesting. I'd like to see that one move down here.
That'd be cool.
But I don't know. I talked to the rules director down here. He's like, he doesn't want to deal with writing up the rules for it because he's like, it's just so hard, like to write in like how not to, I guess, get under it or flex your back, or you'd have to write a lot of rules for that.
Yeah.
To be a strict like competition.
Yeah.
So you've been around the sport long enough to see the sport grow from mostly suit and wraps moved and see the movement more towards raw.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You noticed that?
Yeah. I think the barrier of entry is a little easier when you're with like just the wrist wraps and belt. Because I know a bunch of people, multiply lifters like Bob Merck and I talk sometimes. My coach Greg Panor, my old coach Jamie Mata, they're all multiply lifters, and they're shoveling out whole paychecks just to get their suits specifically sized. And they with raw lifting, you don't necessarily need a whole training crew. You could just like, I don't have any training partners. I just go to the gym and I do my thing. But with multiply, you absolutely have to, because like, I know with bench, if you miss groove, it's either going to your crotch or it's going to your face. And I mean, I'm pretty ugly, but I don't want to get any uglier. So I usually, people text me, they're like, oh, the youngest person to bench 1,000 raw is 29, Jimmy Cole. And I'm like, I don't have enough friends to bench multiply, but thanks for thinking of me.
Yeah, well, we started off raw in 2001 in college because we had like 30 people on the team.
Yeah.
And people didn't have money for the belts. We were sharing belts.
Yeah.
And it was a club sport. So, we got like $1,000 to go to a competition out in like Erie, Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
Hotel rooms or anything. So we just lifted raw in a USAPL meet. That this was at the time really where the two raw organizations started in like 1999. They started. So in 2001, people really didn't even have heard of the word raw. And so we were lifting without suit and wraps at this competition. They thought we were crazy. They thought we were absolutely out of our minds. It was just like, you guys are going to get hurt. You're going to hurt yourself. And we wound up beating Army and Navy and Penn State. We did really well. Not because of me. We had some good people on the team. But yeah, the Paul Bossi, the guy that runs 100% Raw, him and his friend, I don't remember his friend's name, came up with the term raw in 1999. And the word raw was, what do you call it? An acronym? What it stood for Redeemed Amongst the World. And it was because it started as like a Christian organization. And most people have no idea where that whole word even where it came from. But that was Paul Bossi. He started 100% raw back then, and another guy, Al Siegel, started the Anti-Drug Athletes United, and that's the one that after that USPL meet we wound up going into, and we lifted there until like I don't know when Al Siegel died, and he ran that organization, and then it kind of folded into 100% raw because they basically had all the same rules. It just two different people two different people that they didn't get along. But once the one died, the organizations kind of merged, and it's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
RPS is getting bigger too. I remember when RPS was really, from what I remember, was just New Jersey.
Yeah. It's growing. I think they've meets. I think they have worldwide meets. I think I saw it. I know they couple with XPC, ran by Dan Daig. I think they have some in like Ukraine, Lebanon. I have a meat T-shirt from one that they did up in Canada. But yeah, it's, and I know there's some in the Midwest I've seen, but they kind of branch out with meet directors as well. So it's not all just one meet director anymore. So yeah.
Well, I think there was a point where like everyone starting their own powerlifting organization because I don't know, because their ego, they wanted to run their own, or they had slight differences with people. And but slowly I'm starting to see at least the organization starting to come back together, which is good. because powerlifting will never be an Olympic sport until it's a one organization sport.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's like, and I've talked to this guy. I know my friend Pete Miller. He was an Olympic lifter. He worked at the Olympics, running the Olympic lifting, and he's like powerlifting. Well, number one, really the sport's viewed as a drug sport.
Yeah.
Number two, the rules are just all over the place. There's no set of rules, and that's really why they don't want to even hear about powerlifting.
Yeah, I when I posted my meet results last time, some guy was talking. He was like, it's weird that you don't have to pause your bench in RPS. I'm like, well, the rule book says that you have to show control at the chest, and some other federations will say you have to pause it at the chest. It's almost like the same rules, just written differently.
Well, the way I look at it is you're giving your own pause signal.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. I mean, if it's the way I've read the rules for like organizations like RPS, it's the same thing except someone's telling you to press or you're telling yourself to press. It should be, because it should be basically the same thing. Yeah. I know some people, especially Brenda Siegel, she will just let that bar sit on your chest for like 3 seconds. And I love Brenda Siegel, but she never powerlifted.
Yeah.
Man, she lets that bar sit on you. When she hits, if you're benching and she's in the head chair, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Some people are just, just depends who you're there with. Some people give quicker signals.
Yeah, I know. The two signals that I know aren't standard is the squat signal. Some feds don't require a squat signal, and then also the rack signal. I remember Gene Rishlak was a stickler on that one because back in before he started RPS, people were equipped benching straight into the rack without locking it out fully and getting the lifts. So he made it a point on his 1,005-pound bench to lock it out and hold it. He told the side spotters he was going to hold it for, I think it was 5 to 10 seconds. And he locked it out, and you can see the head judge saying, rack it, rack it, rack it. And he was just holding it there. And then once the time limit was up, he slammed it back. And he's always been a stickler for that. And I know the thumb loop on wrist wraps is a contested rule. Some feds require it, some don't. So it's kind of sad to see the divergence of rules in different federations. Like I know what I would like to see is a lot of the big meets like the Hybrid Showdown and the Kern. Those were like 3 or 4 weeks apart from each other. So you saw Dan Bell and John Hatt compete at both of them, and they didn't do as well as they potentially could have at the Kern US Open. But if they were like spaced differently, like 6 months apart, they would have been able to get a full training cycle in, build their strength, recover properly from the Hybrid Showdown, and Dan Bell would have been pushing 1,250 kilos.
Yeah.
So.
See, I'm not a fan of putting my thumb in the loophole. I like to grab the wrap, right? I grab the loophole, put it in there, come around my wrist, so this way the wrap, which is legal. And then when you come around, it's almost like a lever, it's like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I like wrapping that way, but yeah, most people they stick their thumb in it and wrap
it. I know if you widen your hands and try to keep your hands as open as possible, you can get a tighter wrap. Kind of like how they say flex your quad when you're getting your knees wrapped.
That's a good tip. Open hand. I'm gonna try that. Are you coaching anyone?
Not right now. My coach, Greg Panora, charges $20 a month for coaching. So if I charge someone more than that, I perceive myself as saying I know more than Greg, so I can charge more than Greg. So I don't coach people. because I don't want to charge more than $20 a month. And at that point, it's not really worth the time at that point. I have coached people in the past. I had one client for about 2 years, but we ended up going separate ways. It was, so I cared more about the results than he did. With COVID and everything and all the lockdowns, there weren't really meets going on. And so we did a mock meet at his gym, and he would have bombed out, and he just didn't care. He was like, oh, once I start juicing, all the numbers will fly up. And I'm like, that is not the attitude you should be having. Goodbye, essentially.
Yeah, it's tough when you're an athlete. I've heard this from like especially like really like powerlifters, like Pat Susco.
No.
Oh, he squatted like 925, but back in like 1992, back when like no one, that was like top squatting.
Yeah.
Back in 1992, no one was hitting numbers like that. And him, Ellen Stein, she's a phenomenal female. You know Ellen Stein?
Yeah, I know Ellen.
You know her personally?
I haven't met her personally, but I used to talk sometimes with her coach Swede.
Oh yeah, I've heard he's a really good coach. Yeah, Ellen's totally. She don't care if I say it. She's totally out of her mind. She's
yeah.
At a competition or something like that, like if you're in her way, she will just pick you up, throw you out of my way. She's great. She's really funny. And oh man, she's gotten thrown out of a few gyms because like if she sees someone doing something stupid, she'll go right up to you and tell you you are doing something stupid. she's wild.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the two of them, right? They're both in Brooklyn. I grew up lifting around them, and like my close friends, like some of the best lifters, and they're like, we can't train people. Like we can't deal with someone who doesn't have the same mental attitude that like you have for someone else. They just can't stand it, and they just can't do it. And I'm just like, well, it's a shame because you two are probably like, some of the best lifters I know. I mean, especially Pat Susco. I mean, he's been in powerlifting since I think the early 70s.
Wow.
That he knows. I mean, the knowledge that he has. I'm like, why are you not in the gyms like sharing this with so many people? He's like he can't deal with it. He just has people come to his house, lift with him for free. He's happy doing that. He can't do it. But I'm studying right now. What is it? The NASM.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try and do it. We'll see. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to deal with overweight people that really don't care that much.
Yeah. I have a concept around coaching that a couple people, I think JP Price and Joe Sullivan kind of hinted at it over the past couple of weeks, where it kind of takes, how they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a team of coaches to properly get an athlete ready for elite level performance. So you got the powerlifting coach will do all the programming and make sure that you don't do stupid things mostly. My coach mostly just tells me he's going to stab me in the throat if I go off program. So it keeps me in line pretty much. And then a recovery coach, so like a physical therapist, someone to make sure that you're actively making sure that you're still malleable. Nutrition coach to make sure that you're eating properly, got the right nutrition and whatnot. And then the most often overlooked one is the mental coach. So a therapist, someone who's going to talk you through, because your body can't tell the difference between physical stress and mental stress. So you're constantly stressing your body physically. You lose your mind a little bit. Um, you start building irrational thoughts and um, putting certain circumstances out of proportion in your mind because you can't quite filter through the difference between a heavy squat day and a heavy conversation that you're going to have with like a loved one. Um, so Eddie Hall, when he was going over his prep for the 500 kilo deadlift, he mentioned that he basically had a team of individuals like that, and his therapist, which he would meet with, I think it was weekly, taught him how to trigger the fight or flight response in his body by pinching the back of his hand. He would basically, before he would lift, he'd go to the bathroom, he'd wash his face down, stare in the mirror, and picture his kids under a car, and he would pinch the back of his hand, and he would basically trigger the adrenaline rush from a situation. Like you always hear about the mom lifting the car off the baby, so he would basically trigger that own thing in his own system. So it takes a village, essentially.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you're talking about the whole like lifting the car thing. Like, I think I've gotten to a place now where, I mean, I've been lifting almost 20 years. Like, like when I started lifting, like my coach was like very intense, like that's what I learned. I seen him lift. I seen him walking down the hallway, like because it was a college gym, so it was just, like pass by classrooms and he'd be out there, just like slamming his chest, like banging his head against the wall, you know what I mean? And then coming in to lift, like slamming the bar against the rack, getting in there screaming and yelling. And that's what I learned with. And, I trained like that for a while. And a lot of people would come up to me eventually and be like, you're wasting so much energy.
Yeah.
Before your lift. Like I'm just watching. But like I learned to lift that way. So it took me a long time to kind of internalize that and take it out on the bar. And I noticed lately that like if I use like an ammonia capsule, I kind of overload. I'm going like above and beyond that, like technique and form like are out the window.
Yeah.
I think about it. You know what I mean? Like I have like no ability to focus on that. So like I needed to like I was like no, like I threw them out. You know what I mean? I was like I'm not going to do it. Because I was relying on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's toward the end. I'm getting towards the competition. That's it. I'm using the ammonia capsules. It's heavy, and I stopped using them. And actually, my form got a little better without them because I think I was just getting. It was just zero thinking. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I personally don't use ammonia caps anymore. The Amy Rishlak, Jean Rishlak's widow, she and I were talking about ammonia caps. And when you're taking ammonia chemically isn't oxygen, which is obvious. So you have less oxygen in your brain and your muscles to function right before you lift. Why would you specifically reduce the amount of oxygen in your body before you lift? So I haven't used ammonia caps since then.
I guess you don't know how to psych yourself up without it, like it's a
yeah,
or
yeah,
a new lifter or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use music a lot to psych myself up. I feel like almost like I have different personalities for each lift. Like, my song choices for each lift are different. So for squats, it's usually like a really light emotional music, and I'll sing it really loudly and really terribly. I did I think it was 2019 Christmas Carnage RPS meet in Chicopee one year and Stacy Burr was there and she was just laughing her ass off because I was just singing I think it was All of Me by John Legend, just really loudly and really poorly right before I squatted. Didn't miss a squat. And it's past me and I was doing Can't Help But Fall in Love by Elvis Presley.
Song.
And I'm walking up to the bar and I'm laughing to myself. I'm like, you kind of completely break myself mentally in order to rationalize getting under this massive weight on the bar. And I also make fun of the spotters every time I go up because you don't want to trust the spotters. If you're going to fail a lift and you don't trust your spotters, you're going to find a way to get the lift or die. But that hasn't happened yet. But for bench, it's completely different. I have to kind of perceive myself as like the best in the world. So like OTEP, some heavy metal where it's just like, I'm the best in the world. Before my third attempt bench at my last meet, 620 on the bar, I'm listening to the Enormous Penis song by Da Vinci's Notebook. And I put it in my coach's ear. He's like, what are you listening to? This makes no sense. Giving me shenanigans over that. And deadlift is it's like I haven't found my own person within deadlifts yet, so I don't really have a music choice for that. But it's like these three distinct different personalities that just the mentality of each of them is different. Like bench is highly technical, deadlift is this like primal rage monster, and squats is this like it's almost an artistic piece of human development. So when I get into that state, above 95%, you're going to be relying almost 100% on your muscle memory. So the air squats, push-ups, whatever people do for muscle memory on deadlifts probably explains why my deadlift isn't as good. But you don't want to be thinking I have to move this way, I have to be flexing this. You don't want to be relying on mental cues. Once you've got a PR on your back, you want to be you like turn the brain off and go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
RPS, do they play music at the competitions?
Yep.
Okay. See, this is why I don't train with music, at least for my heavy set. I don't train with music because I never did. In college, my coach was out of his mind. There's certain things like mirrors. You couldn't have mirrors in the gym. You couldn't have music. He would go. What would he say? Oh, when they start benching in the disco or whatever, and then I'll play music. Someone answered their phone once, and he took that phone and smashed it on the ground. He was totally out of his mind. He was a postal worker, and he just came there he didn't make much money doing it. You know what I mean? He just came there because he liked it, and he liked training people, and we had a really good time training with him. But what the hell was I talking about? I have no idea what I was talking about.
Music in the gym?
Oh, music in the gym. So, we never trained to music in the gym. And 100% Raw does not play music at their meets. I've never seen any meet director do it. So, I'm down in my basement, blasting music, playing music. So, like, I'll put even certain songs on that I want to listen to when I'm squatting, whatever. Go to the competition. There's no music. You know what I mean? You get up to that bar, and it just felt like, I don't know, like you were squatting alone in like an arena. It just felt so weird not having the music now. So now, like, I'll lift with music, but when my top, whatever they call it now, top set, heavy set, or whatever. Turn it off. I do my sets without music. If I'm going to an RPS meet, I know there's going to be music. I'll lift the music. Or if certain places they'll let you pick a song. I've heard. Uh, I've heard a USAPL meet. I know they were letting people. Well, what song do you want to play?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So if I knew I'm going to a meet with that, I'll do that. So I think I make sure like everything's got to be the same as the competition.
Yeah.
The same. Like if you're training with a sweatband on your head, something I don't know who the hell trains with a sweatband on their head, but you know what I mean. Like at the competition, if they don't let you have that sweatband, it's gonna mess with you.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I squat without shoes on. I just like to feel the floor a little bit better. RPS lets me compete without shoes on, but I was gonna compete at the Arnold Classic with XBC, and they require you to wear shoes. So I was training with shoes on. It was throwing me off a little bit. I felt like 20 stories taller than I actually was.
Yeah.
And it's very different. You always want to imitate that competition like feel every day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Getting back to all the different rules, like my 100% raw, they
Yeah.
choose. Just the sole, like the wrestling shoes or the what do you call it, the deadlift shoes.
Yeah.
Um, well, what else? I see it all of a sudden now. A lot of organizations they're allowing this. I call it the tippy toe bench.
Yeah.
RPS allow that.
Um yeah, they do. I know some feds require that you have the heel on the ground, but it's not really necessary. Like when Kirill Sochev had the bench world record, he was on the balls of his feet, on his toes. Um, so I know a lot of multiply lifters. They build the platform with their feet, so their heels have to be on the ground. But you find a lot of the people on the tippy toes also have the extreme arches, which I know is a contested point among Instagram lifters. But
Well, here's how I explain that to someone because I have a pretty good arch, especially for a guy. Usually, a lot of girls have extreme arches, so they're flexible.
I can fit about a fist in there.
Yeah, I have a pretty good arch, and so someone asked me like, "What's the deal with that?" Like that really doesn't even go to the gym. And I said, "Well, that'd be like telling a race car driver to go around the curve like in his lane. Like he's not going to do that. He's going to kick an apex. He's going to take the shortest route. You know what I mean? He's going to like that's not cheating. You know what I mean? He's staying within doing everything you can within the rules. So if that's what the rules are, that's what the rules are. If the rules change and they say your back has to be flat on the bench, well then that's how you have to bench. That's how we'll do it. But that's not what the rules are. So the bigger the arch, the less distance you got to go.
Yeah. Well, it's also a safety thing because the arch kind of disperses the load of whatever you're benching into the bench and the ground through your feet. Whereas if you've got a flat back on the bench, it's all going into your spine. It's like, would you rather drive over a flat bridge or a bridge with an arch?
I would never bench without an arch in my back.
Yeah.
I was benching with my feet up for whatever reason, to not because I put a lot of leg drive into my bench,
Mm-hmm.
And so, with I had my feet up and I guess my back was pretty flat, and I killed my shoulders like that, killed them. I needed a while to recover from that, I see people now they get like up like they put their feet on the bench and arch.
Yeah.
I see. Powerlifting is weird now. Like with Instagram,
yeah,
I see like so many people doing so many different things. You learn so fast. Like when I started lifting in 2001, there was just Powerlifting USA magazine. That was it. And the people You know, you didn't know what someone was doing in Ohio, or why everyone in Ohio was monsters, and like you, um, I saw something on Instagram the other day. This guy that used to live for West Side, something Pole, his name was, uh, and he made this device. It's, you ever see like the Zercher squat thing?
Yeah, it's Chuck Vogel.
Well, he makes the power pole,
Yeah.
and it looks like a giant penis,
Yeah.
and
A loadable penis.
that's exactly. I saw it on Instagram. I called my wife. I was like, "You got to come see this thing." But if it wasn't for Instagram, I would never know about this giant loadable penis. And like, I'm like, I told my wife, I was like, I have to have this. Yeah, I have to have. And you know what? It's a great idea because like I've been doing Zercher squats, and I'm like, you know, this is a good idea because like I have a problem in the squat. I like, you know, leaning forward a little much, you know. So I'm like, do these Zercher squats help, you know, build up some back strength. And I'm like, you know, it would be great. You know, the Zerchers are out in front of you. If someone made like, you know, something with like the weight in front, and I saw it on Instagram, I was like, holy shit, someone did it. The power penis. Oh man. Um, when have you really like started to get into the gym? Like high school?
um well, as a kid I was always the chonky kid. I played ice hockey, but when I transitioned over to goalie, I got lazy and fat. So when I was about 12, I started going to like the local health club, but I am overly competitive. So they had this like they had a cycling simulator with a pacer, and I 100% every time um I had to beat the pacer by at least a minute. And it also had the grips that would measure your heart rate, and I'll get my heart rate up to 250. And once I finished the track and everything was all good, I would stand up, I'd walk away, or I would just vomit all over the machine and pass out. They thought I had a heart problem for a bit.
Push hard, that's all. They didn't
Yeah,
someone push that hard.
yeah. I was never taught to let up or quit at all. Um, so around 12, I started going into the gym, and then around 14, I started lifting weights. I had like a basic. It was like an all-in-one machine, almost like a Bowflex, but it had like loadable weights instead of tensions. And I just I also had a pool table in my basement, so um I was trying to lift weights to make my braking on pool better, because that matters sometime. But when I finally got into high school, the weight room at my high school wasn't super good. It was um, smaller than my living room, but they had a bench, they had a Smith machine, and a deadlift platform. Um, and that's when I started kind of realizing how much I could really lift. Like at I was 14, I benched 200. Um, and then by senior year, I benched 300. Um, and that's about when I really got serious. And my senior year of high school, I didn't play ice hockey. I instead started doing 2-a-day bodybuilding splits, where I would go into the gym at, I think it was either 3 or 4 a.m. right before school, and then immediately right after school doing, it was like Muscle and Brawn magazine. It had a Ronnie Coleman workout, and then like a Muscle and Fitness Arnold Schwarzenegger workout. And I would be Arnold in the morning, Ronnie Coleman at night. I was super impressed with my leg press at the time. Uh, but once I started getting some bicep tendonitis because I played football, I started asking about wrist wraps. And when I asked someone about wrist wraps, that's when he asked if I was a pussy. So now I bench his deadlift plus 20.
Yeah, bicep tendonitis sucks. I
Yeah.
just ordered a Swiss bar or football bar
Mm-hmm. Yep.
from Titan, the cambered one. That's just to 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 change it up a little bit because I've been really hearing from a lot of powerlifters that have been around for over 20 years really in the sport, and they're just like, if you're going to be in this sport for a long time, like they're like, we're not talking about people with less than 5 years or maybe even 10 years. So like, if you're going to be in the sport for a long time, you can't be on the straight bar all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be. You gotta, like, use a squat safety bar, the Swiss bar, and change it up because they're like that. The straight bar is just too brutal on your body for so long.
Yeah.
And like I said, I haven't done it yet, but a lot of the guys, they're saying they swear that, like, 6 weeks out before a competition, you could switch over from like a neutral bar and go to the straight bar, and they're like, we promise you, like, it's gonna be there. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna try it out. I try everything.
Yeah, that's especially true with squats. I just after competing, I do a block of hypertrophy, and I was trying to use a straight bar, and I tweaked my shoulder first week of hypertrophy with the straight bar,
Yeah.
and I get like terrible like pinched nerves all up in my shoulder and pec, and that's been limiting my bench a bit. But my coach finally let a little bit of leash out and let me use a buffalo bar, and no pain in the shoulders, no pain in the elbows. Bench flew up. So yeah, definitely the straight bar is so brutal on squats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the bench too, squat on the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about the deadlift if it's that tough. I mean, some people talk about the hex bar. I don't know. I hear some people say it doesn't do anything, but I know definitely a straight bar on the bench and the squat, they're tough on you after a long time. It's not like I'm not doing numbers like you do, but I've been lifting for a long time. It gets tough. But you talked about throwing up. I say, like, unless you've ever pooped, peed, vomited, or had your eyes bleeding or your nose bleeding during lifting, and you've never pushed yourself enough.
The only one I've missed there is the bleeding out of the orifices.
Well, usually the guys don't pee themselves. It's usually a female issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually the female issue.
I think Daniel and Bailey once said girls pee themselves, guys poop themselves.
Yeah, that's usually like, I haven't done it in a while, but for a little while it was like a deadlift PR, like, celebration. Always, every time I hit a deadlift PR, I was like straight to the bathroom.
Yep.
See, stupid things you've seen in the gym, or the dumbest thing you've seen in the gym.
I saw someone do a reverse bench to a board with chains for a max, and I had no idea what they were working.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. You got the reverse band and the chains going backwards. It was on a buffalo bar too, and they also had the board. So I've
Is it a tricep thing?
I have no idea. They were going for a reverse band chained buffalo bar to a board PR. I don't know.
That sounds retarded.
Yeah.
But what's not retarded is chains and bands, I think.
Yeah.
I think I'm lifting in my own gym. So for me, it's easy. I have my chains. It'd be a little difficult to carry around 100-pound of chains still.
Yeah.
But if your gym doesn't have that, you got to get yourself, right, like a set of bands, I think.
Yeah. I remember when Ray Williams squatted 1,010 for the first time. I loaded up a safety squat bar with 1,010 pounds worth of band tension, and I unracked it, and the mono started to flip. That was, I guess that would be the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's definitely the dumbest thing I've ever done in a gym, except for cardio. I do that. I've done that before.
Had you tested band tension with like a fish hook?
Yeah, fish hook.
Someone told me about that. This guy, Bruce Knox, I think he's got the world record in the strict curl. He was like, well, how much band tension are you using? I was like, well, how the hell would I know? No, I'm like, I don't know. It's a lot. Whatever. And he's like, what do you mean you don't know? He's like, you get a fish hook and you measure it. I'm like, oh, I didn't. Now I learn something every day.
Yeah.
But yeah. I love. I think the bands and the chains feel different to me.
Yeah, the chains kind of swing, and bands, if you think about it, if they're not directly downwards, like the vectors of force which the bands are pulling, it could be at an angle, and there could be a horizontal component to the bands also pulling on you.
Well, the bench, okay. So the bench press, right? I'm down here, right? It's just my wife, really, if she's around. Well, usually she's not around for my bench days. And so there's a lot of band tension at the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unracking it, right? Like I'm taking it from all the way back here. There's crazy tension on it. And it just, I was getting to the point where I was like, it's starting to hurt.
Yeah.
And I mean, like if I had a big guy like you, like, yeah, you know, to help me out, it would be great. But I didn't. So I was like, you know what? I was like, I just started doing them from the bottom, from the catches. I would get under it, you know, I'd
pin press it.
Yeah, I pin press it, you know, push it up a little bit with my chest, and then, that's what I've been doing because I can't unrack it.
Yeah, there's some weird vectors going on there.
Yeah, well, I use two bands on the strict curl. This I learned from this guy Bruce Knox also. Because the way the bar path moves, because it's not only an up, it's an in. So I have a band that's around my feet, and then 3 feet out from my feet, I have a 100-pound dumbbell, and I have another band on that coming this way. So not only do I have it up, also is the band's coming this way. But I really couldn't see any other lift where that would be beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
It's like bands in 2 different places. So even though, right, you're squatting the, you know, crazy number, which is your favorite lift?
I'm making this question out to be way more complicated than it needs to be. Because in your head, if you tell yourself you're not good at something, you're going to continue to not be good at it. So if I tell myself that I suck at deadlifts, I hate deadlifts, I don't want to do deadlifts, my deadlift's going to stagnate itself. So I don't want to say that deadlift is my least favorite lift.
What's your favorite?
Yeah, my favorite.
It's like saying which kid is your favorite. All right, never mind.
yeah, because I throw up the most on squat days, but I get the most volume, and I have some of the coolest lifts on bench days. So it's kind of split between those two, but I like them all equally.
Yeah, good answer. Okay, so right, we talked about this early. Powerlifting can be intimidating to people, but I've been around it 20 years. Very few jerks in this sport. I think the competitions, everyone's willing to help you. Almost, I mean,
Oh
almost
yeah.
everyone, but almost everyone is willing to help you. Everyone is nice. Everyone is supporting each other.
Mhm.
I think the only sport, because I've talked to a lot of different strength athletes, Olympic lifting, and strongman competitors, arm wrestlers. Strongmen that compete in powerlifting and strongmen, they swear that strongman competitions are the friendliest events. And I would have thought that that was because I'm not in it. I think it looks scary, right? All this stuff. I would have thought that these people were animals and just out of their mind. But that's my ignorance. They tell me it's the nicest people. Uh, but I think powerlifting's full of great people. I think so. From your whole experience of powerlifting, is that your feel of the sport?
Oh yeah, definitely. When I first started lifting, uh, I was part of a team, and we made it a point to go out every month and help run a meet. So I got to meet like Gene Rishlag, Vinny DeZenzo, Dom Minichi, a lot of great East Coast lifters, and each and every one of them had like a thing, a trick or two that they would share with us. So we kept getting these wheelhouses of tricks and stuff that would make us a little bit better each time that we did it. um, I can't attribute all of my lifts just to a singular coach or anything. Like I remember um, uh, when I was 19, I benched 500 in a full power meet, and I got a phone call from Tone Barbasio, who is he used to be a multiply lifter, and then he transitioned over to Raw out of New Jersey. Um, and he broke down like second by second what went wrong in my lift to make sure that I got better. And then um, a, a couple months later, before I turned 20, um, so when I was still 19, I was able to utilize all these tricks and set the teen raw bench world record at 545. So it's like I can't attribute all my progress to one coach, one person. It's almost like raised by a village, almost like. So I've never met anyone malicious at a powerlifting meet. Everyone's so nice and inclusive, and like first time lifters, they're so intimidated by the people, but like everyone's there to see everyone succeed. I know my favorite lift to watch is third attempt deadlifts because everyone's so wound up from, I don't know, squats didn't go as well as they wanted, bench went really well or whatnot. They get to third attempt deadlift, they lock it out, and they just release all of their emotions all at once. Kind of brings a tear to the eye. The only places that you might find malicious people is online. Everyone's got something to say about something, but in person, nobody says anything. It's all these keyboard warriors.
Yeah, comment sections.
Yeah.
For so long, like I would never post like a video of my deadlift, because I have a problem with arching my back, and people are just nobody's like oh, like message me or like a helpful comment or like, hey,
Yeah.
you should train reverse hyperextensions or good mornings or something. It's just like, oh, you're an idiot, you're gonna kill yourself or this or that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
nothing helpful.
Yeah.
Just stupid stuff like that. So your diet. How many people a day do you eat?
I have about four small children a day. No. Um I've recently only just reorganized my diet. Last year during, I think it was like June and July, Stan Efferding did the whole Vert Cert tour on in his RV and whatnot. And he stopped by Manchester, and I went to his vertical diet seminar. I thought I was following vertical diet, but I was far off. And now every morning I'll have half a quart of Greek yogurt. Um, I eat every 2 to 3 hours, or at least I try to. I'm not 100% yet. Um, it's hard to eat so much. Um, and then I'll have a third pound of beef with a cup of rice and a monster mash. And then I'll have leftovers from whatever my wife ate for dinner. I don't think she left any salad today. Oh, phooey. Um, Usually it's like pasta and meatballs or like shepherd's pie or something with beef. And then I'll have a tuna salad sandwich. I'll have a whole can of tuna. And then I will have a pound of steak, a pound of potato for dinner. Sometimes we'll go over a pound, just based on the cuts and whatnot. And then I'll have some sort of dessert. Like tonight, I've got a carrot cake parfait. I prefer cheesecake, but it wasn't on sale today.
Oh, you know
It's
what?
about
Yeah, it's
uh,
good. It's a good diet.
yeah, it's around 400 grams of protein, 600 grams of carbs, and I forgot the fats, but it's about 8,000 calories.
Yeah, well, you're a big boy, and you're pushing a lot of weight.
Yeah. My dad keeps asking me when I get my adult muscles, but I don't know.
You get your adult muscles at 38.
Oh, I got some time.
38. Yeah. All of a sudden, at 38, I'm like, whoa, like, just, I'm like, I thought my numbers were going to start to go down. Like, all of a
Mm.
sudden, I'm like, at my strongest right now. Like, I was at a plateau for a while, and that's what a lot of people are telling me. They're like, oh yeah, there's like a lot of people you get like a big boost around then. Well, how old are you?
I'm 24.
You're young, right? So how long you been married?
Uh, 3 years. In 3 years in June.
Yeah, well, I'm June 25th, my anniversary.
Oh, I'm June 20th.
Yeah, so we got married. Me and my wife started dating. We met on the powerlifting team. Started dating sophomore year of college, and we got married that June. We graduated. I was 20 years old.
Mm.
She was 21. Yeah, and then I got on the worked with my father a little bit doing construction, and then January 9th I got on the NYPD.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I, after we met at we didn't actually talk at the powerlifting meet. Her coach wanted a team picture and asked me to take the picture. So obviously I took a selfie first, and then he tagged me in the picture, and then she slid into my DMs. Our first date, we'd been talking, and I was like, there isn't that much magic in Lord of the Rings. And she was like, I'll show you. So she had me over. She was making some food, some asparagus, some steak. It was delicious. And then the Fellowship of the Ring was scratched. So we watched the two towers, and she was like, she pointed every single moment that there was magic. And now on my wedding ring, I don't know if you can see it. It's it's the Ring of Power from Lord of the Rings. So kind of went full circle. So.
That's great. I'm gonna send you a picture on Instagram of my first competition. We were all screwing around in the hallway at the hotel, and for whatever reason, I had a towel around my neck. It's like a cape. I was wearing a speedo, and I'm like running with her in my arms, and it's like the funniest picture. We were like 18 or 19 years old. We were like just causing chaos in the hotel. Everyone was complaining about us. We had a lot of fun.
Good old days.
All right. Do you warm up and stretch?
Yes.
Do
Very avidly. A couple years ago,
you look like a guy that doesn't warm up and stretch?
So about 2 years ago, I had a herniated disc at the L5S1, the size of a golf ball. I went to the hospital, and they were like, "How are you walking?" And it was sheer willpower. But I was asking some people on Instagram and on Facebook, like, what do I do? And then this guy, Dwayne Kyoto, out of Portland, Oregon, I think, or Washington, he's like, all right, I'm a physical therapist. We're getting on video chat right now. And within an hour, all the stretches and stuff that he had me doing fixed, or not fixed, but alleviated the pain. I was only able to stand up for about 3 or 4 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
and I was able to like actually function and enjoy my life again. And I've continued to do the herniated disc stretches that he prescribes me, as well as he has an activation series that he has, which is a lot of like shoulder mobility, hip mobility, a lot of shoulder mobility, as well as foam rolling. And there's a lot of yoga poses in there. So I spent about 10 to 20 minutes before every workout stretching and activating everything. And I just noticed recently that I've never not PR'd my bench at a meet, but since he's had me do the activation series, they've gone from 5-pound PRs to 30, 20-pound PRs. So the activation series that he has me on almost feels like a cheat code.
What's
back.
That? I don't know what you're talking about.
It's just a different like things, dynamic stretching.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Like band pull aparts, yeah. Like a lot of shoulder mobility stuff, foam rolling, cat cows, yoga poses like cobra pose and newborn pose. A lot of holding that stuff. But it feels like a cheat code because if I'm like in a pinch and I'll be like, oh, I don't need to stretch before I lift. It's just deload week. I'll try to pick up the bar and I'm like, oh, who turned the magnets on? Who let gravity work today? But when I'm consistently doing it, it feels like cheating. Like this past meet that I competed at, it was the first meet that I ever competed at where I didn't feel like I was duct taped together going onto the platform. I was like, I'm not broken. Who am I?
Yeah, this is another one of those scenarios where like I didn't listen to my wife. Like doing this stuff for years, right? Like the dynamic stretching and all this stuff. I would just make fun of her. Like she's doing these things where she looks like a flamingo. She's walking and touching her toes and she's waving her arms. I'm like, you're out of your mind. And I just so happened to talk to on the podcast to this girl, Julie D'Alessio. She's a personal trainer, and she's like, she used to powerlift, and then she started powerlifting. Someone's coming through my floor. I don't know how to explain what she does. She's basically like a professional, like workout person. All she does, like, she's like stretches and does crazy stretches and crazy dynamic stretches, and I can't really explain what she does, but she knows everything about all this stuff, this stretching and foam rolling and all this stuff. And she was telling me everything about it in the podcast, and I was like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. I'm going to start doing that. And my wife was just like, I've been telling you this stuff for years. I'm like, I didn't hear you say anything.
Yeah, it's a similar reason why my wife likes my parents. She'll tell me things constantly that I should be doing this, that I should be doing that. And then like my parents or my coach will say something, oh, you should do this. And then I start doing it. And she's like, I've been telling you for months to do this. I was like, okay, fine. I'll say your favorite words. You were right.
You tell her it's not just you.
Yeah. It's a husband thing.
Yeah. What do you think's like the most important thing you could have told yourself when you started lifting?
Ooh. That's a tough question. I guess slow down.
Would you have listened to yourself?
Oh no.
No. Okay.
No.
That's what everyone. Yeah. Everyone says that.
It's part of the problem with coaching young lifters. Like 19 and 20-year-olds think they know everything because they've reached a certain point, and they just don't listen to other people. And then they end up getting injured and they're out of the sport in 2 years. Like I can't count how many times like some 18 or 19-year-old hits like a massive total, and everyone sends me their video and they're like, look at this kid. And then I'm like, all right, tell me where they're at in 2 years. And no responses. So it's kind of, it's sad to see, but like when someone's 20, they're going to assume that they know everything. Like I I have a saying that someone who knows nothing thinks they know everything, but someone who knows more knows that they know nothing.
I think you got that right.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
All right, I'm going to ask you maybe a harder question, or maybe not. How has lifting gotten you through one of life's hardest moments?
hmm. That is a hard question.
Well, some people have it, they know right away, like, my wife died or my son died. Usually it's something like that, or addiction. I know some people, lifting has helped gotten them through, drug addiction, alcoholism, some stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you're a young guy. Maybe you just never had anything traumatic. But I'll ask you 10 years from now. I'm sure you'll have something.
I've had a couple difficult things. I struggle with mental illness. Um, they they won't really diagnose me with anything. Like I know with schizophrenia, that they need like 5 out of 7 symptoms for them to actually diagnose you. Same with multiple personality disorder, but I've got only like 3 or 4, so I'm not at the threshold where they'll actually diagnose me with anything. They only say that I have major depression, high anxiety.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been in the hospital 3 times in my life for depression and anxiety. Um, the first time was right after I turned 20. Um, I I had a plan for to kill myself. I was gonna drive my car into the lake, and I took a nap right before I was gonna do it. And a friend of mine that I met through lifting called the cops. My mom opened the door and she was like, "What did you do?" And they brought me to the hospital because I was a danger to myself. And then the next time was a year and a half ago. Um, the medication that I was on wasn't working anymore, so they decided to start treating me for schizophrenia with Abilify. And I remember the all I wanted to do was watch the fireworks outside, but every loud noise was like setting me off. I don't want to compare myself to like PTSD,
Yeah.
but like you hear the stories of like shell shock and PTSD, like the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk movie, where he's just in the shower and he looks up at the shower head and he just sees a railgun shooting at him and he just collapses in his shower. It was kind of like that. And um, with that, I went to my wife brought me to the hospital, and I was kept in there for 3 days. The whole no shoelaces and you have to show that you're better is probably one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. Um, but I was in there. The only exercise we were able to do was walk in a circle, and I was like, if I walk in a circle too much, they're gonna think I'm crazy. It's one of those like Shutter Island, like I'm fine, I'm not supposed to be here, I'm healthy, directly means that you're not, kind of things. And I remember when they're checking me in, I was like, what can I do to work out there? And they're like, oh, you could maybe do push-ups or sit-ups or pull-ups or something. And I was like, I don't know. I can't really not go to the gym for too long. So I pulled myself together. They had me basically withdraw off the Abilify and put me on a new medication, and that got me through. And then the third time was last summer, I think. Yeah, it was last summer. All the gyms closed down, and I wasn't able to go to the gym. Um, so I basically dove into schoolwork because I was still a student at the time. Um, doing 25-hour days. I would work for, I would sleep 8 to 6 hours. I would stay up for 16, 17 hours, just constantly doing schoolwork. And that made me crack again. And I went to outpatient hospital that time. And the moment I was able to go to the gym, I was like, I was able to like center myself and bring myself back to reality. So basically, there isn't just one instance where lifting has helped me like get through something hard, because the hardest thing that I've ever done is living, if that makes sense. Like they talk a lot about grounding techniques when you're in a mental hospital. Um, like find things that you can touch, you can taste, you can smell, you can see, and you can kind of come back to reality and realize that you're still functioning in your own reality, and bring yourself back to everyone else's reality. So lifting to me has been that thing where I know that it's real, almost like Inception, when he's got the top. If anyone else spins the top, or when he's in reality, he spins the top and it falls over. He knows that he's in reality, but if he spins the top and it keeps spinning, he's not in his own reality. So if I'm not lifting, I don't kind of, my brain doesn't really recognize that I'm still like alive and functioning. It's it kind of keeps me grounded, and it keeps me from like going off and doing stupid things. It kind of, it's not like a safety net, but it just, it's almost like a safety blanket for me, keeping me from myself.
Would you say that like it's not only trained your body but trained your mind to get to move forward, right? To get through. Because I would say it's not easy to recognize you have a problem. It's not easy to go to a psychiatrist. It's
Yeah.
not easy to go on medication. It's scary. It's not it's not easy to say you're a danger to yourself and you need to go to the hospital and go to the hospital, or and not freak out because you're in the hospital, because it's not fun to be there, because the people
Yeah.
are really crazy in there, and then I've been there.
Yeah.
And it's not fun. So anyway, like I said, I was on the NYPD. I did 13 years in the NYPD, and 13 years in, and a random drug test, they found out that I was on Seroquel and some other things and stuff that I started seeing a psychiatrist about, and they were like, so they started this whole sent me to a psychiatrist there, and they were like, "Oh, you have bipolar 1 disorder," and they were like, "You got to go." Like that was it, right out the door, and that was like the worst. It was like it was a good lesson in life, because when you're a police officer, it's kind of like your identity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how. Maybe because you're such a good powerlifter, you identify with it. But like it was just like one day you were a police officer and one day you weren't, and then it was like, well, what the hell am I? You know,
Yeah.
it was nothing. You know, like it was. I was like a year-long crazy depression over the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
2 years ago, but like, yeah, it was bad. I mean, going, like I said, going through all the steps that you did, doing everything is really tough. A lot of people don't do it, and they screw themselves up. They screw up their marriage. They screw up everything, their whole lives, because they don't have the courage to go through it. I see it.
Yeah.
I go to a recovery group for alcohol, and people, they just don't have the mental fortitude to get
Yeah.
through it. They want them, but they can't.
Yeah. One of the things that um when you're danger to yourself, they say make plans for the future that you have to uphold. And having goals like totals, certain lifts, PRs, things that you want to hit and achieve, those have kept me really grounded. And I remember, um, it's difficult once you reach those goals too, because you're in that same place. Like, well, what now? Well, now you set a bigger goal, a harder to reach goal, something to keep you grounded. So, like, for me, my number one goal isn't number one. It's not Dan Bell's 2607 or something like that. It's beyond that, because though it might not be achievable, it'll keep me pushing, keep me grounded, keep me making the healthy decisions, keeping track of my diet, keeping track of my mental state, my recovery, um, just keeping me alive and functioning with this little goal. People won't be able to look inside your head and be like, well, what's his motives for doing this? Everyone's different. I might go, I substitute teach while I'm looking for a job right now. Nobody knows that I lift. They don't know what's going into my head. Kids are jerks, so they don't really realize that when they call you an asshole for telling them not to stab another student, which they really shouldn't do.
I don't think you're in a good school district. Where are you teaching?
Laconia, New Hampshire.
Well, it's where the motorcycle rally is, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the Bear. Where is the? I think my buddy Brian Alexander. I'm gonna send you his name on Instagram. He's doing 100% raw meat. He just he called me up out of the blue. He was like, I want to run a competition, and I'm like, oh, my buddy. I know the meat director. I mean the organization director for 100% raw. I'll have him call you, and he called him, and now he's running a meet June 7th. I know he's right around Laconia. I'm gonna probably come up to the meet to help out. Like you should definitely come.
I know there's 4 big powerlifting gyms up here. There's Galaxy Gym out in Moultonboro. There's Heavy Metal Gym, which I go to in Guilford. Live Free or Die Barbell in Rochester, and One to One Fitness in Concord.
I really want to look up what his meet is, see if you know where it is. Let's see. 2021 schedule. Let's see. June 13th is the one I'm going to in New Jersey. Oswego, New York. Doesn't that have it?
I think it might be out in Claremont.
Here it is, June 26th and 27th, Bristol, New Hampshire.
Bristol.
Is that near you?
I don't know. I've never heard of Bristol, New Hampshire.
Okay. But yeah, I'm gonna probably go up there and try and help him out if I don't have to work.
Should be good.
Yeah. So let's see. What are your goals?
Well, short term, I pretty much know who to look out for based on open powerlifting. Like the people better than me, Tom Davis, Dan Bell, Logan Chapman, Luke Knoll. Those are the 4 guys that are on my radar. So staying above Luke Knoll and beating Logan Chapman would be my short-term goals. Logan Chapman squatted 1030 at an RPS meet last year. And Luke Knoll benches 612, I think. But those 2 are 25, so around the same age group. And then we've got Tom Davis and Dan Bell up there. Tom Davis with the 700-pound full power meat bench. I'd like to knock him off that eventually. Probably not the next meet, but eventually. So, and then obviously knock Dan Bell off the top as well. My next meet, I would like to squat 10, minimum 10-10, third attempt probably 10-50, 10-55. Bench, I'd like to, depending on how training goes and how peak goes, I'd like to open at 600, which would put me around 660, third attempt. And then deadlift, I'd like to get that 700-pound monkey off my back. I've been stuck at a 700-pound deadlift for the past 4 years. I just have grip issues in my underhand, which I'm working on. So, and pretty much deadlift's the only reason that I'm not like making big jumps. Like, have you ever played like the filter game on open powerlifting to see like how many filters you need to get yourself as high as possible in the like rankings? So like
I do it with my wife because she's good.
Yeah.
Me, I don't damn.
Yeah.
I don't,
But in 2020, I have the number 2 squat and number 2 bench, and then some far off ranked deadlift. I'd like to break the top 50 deadlift in 2021. I think numbers would put me at around 740 for a deadlift. So that's my next meet goals. Doing the RPS Boston Power Challenge in October, I think. So a little ways off, but eyes on the prize already. I wanted to do the Arnold Classic, which was supposed to be at the end of September, but they're moving it back to like March, April in 2022, just to keep a consistent time frame. And then if I get invited to Big Dogs, I'll do that in 2022.
How many? Well, I mean, we're getting back into all the questions. It's podcast to be forever.
I went in like 40 different directions there.
Yeah. So how many meets a year do you do usually?
2.
That's exactly what I do.
Yeah.
Right around Christmas, and I do one right around in June.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to keep them evenly spaced, about 6 months apart. So I probably do less than 2 a year, but it kind of evens out.
Other than my team, you're the only person that does 2. Everyone does 3, 4. But then you get the people that do like every month.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
Trophies.
Yeah, my team, the standard is 1 meet every 6 months, and they're playing with an idea of a bench only meet at some point, because a lot of people on my team don't really have that good of a bench, and they'd like some sort of good motivation for bench. So it doesn't tax the CNS too much doing a bench only meet.
But, hey man, thanks a lot for doing the podcast. Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot for talking about the mental health issues with me. You know, takes a lot of courage to talk about that. And should thank your wife for giving you all the advice you don't take.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'm gonna send you my wife's Instagram account. You can follow her. Man, she's a good lifter. She really is.
Okay.
Yeah. And I send you my buddy Brian Alexander. He started powerlifting in 1974.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's been around a long time. Yeah, he's gonna run his first meet finally this June. But hey man, like again, thanks a lot, and I'll be in touch, man. This was great.
Yep.
I'm gonna probably put this on Monday.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.